One promise, one journey. Humanity was watching the stars above Earth were calm that night. They did not flash or burn brighter than usual. They did not warn anyone. Yet something changed forever, while most people slept. The signal arrived without noise or drama. It did not break systems or shut down satellites. It slid into human networks like it had always belonged there. Old antennas picked it up first, the newer arrays followed. The message was simple, steady, and clear. It repeated every 12 seconds. It did not say hello. It did not give coordinates. It said, "The promise still stands. The time has come." At first, scientists thought it was a mistake. Old code, space trash, a forgotten probe looping nonsense. They ran checks again and again. Every test confirmed the same truth. The signal was real, artificial, and far too precise to be random. The most troubling part was not where it came from. It was that the signal used early human language patterns, old Earth phrasing, words no longer used in modern space traffic, words from the first years of deep space travel. That meant one thing. Humans had sent something like this before, but no record showed when. No archive showed why, and no one remembered making a promise. Within hours, governments met behind closed doors. Military leaders argued to block the signal. Some said it could be a trap. Others feared panic if the public learned humanity had forgotten something important. A few voices spoke quietly about shame. Across Earth, rumors spread anyway. Leaks moved faster than official statements. People watched the sky from city roofs and desert plains. Some felt excitement, others felt fear. Most felt something worse. Guilt without memory. After 2 days, the signal changed. One new line appeared at the end. "Failure will erase the name of the one who promised." That line broke the silence. Earth could not pretend anymore. A single ship was chosen for the journey. It was not the strongest ship or the fastest. It was reliable, old, and built to survive long missions. It carried a small crew, each chosen for calm minds rather than fame. The crew did not meet as heroes. They met as workers. The ship left Earth without ceremony. No cheering crowds. No music. Only quiet broadcasts and a steady stream of eyes watching from screens across the world. Humanity watched not because it expected victory, but because it needed answers. The ship moved through space for weeks. The signal guided them now, adjusting gently as they traveled. It led them away from busy lanes and known systems. Past places marked on maps only by numbers and warning signs. The crew studied old human history during the journey. Early expansion years, first colonies, first contacts. They searched for any record of a promise. Anything that matched the signal's tone. They found fragments, short notes, lost logs, mentions of a small world helped long ago, a place with a weak star and unstable ground. Humans had arrived there during their early days, still hopeful, still reckless. They had shared tools, water systems, medicine. They had stayed longer than planned. And when they left, someone had said words that echoed now across space. "If you ever call, we will come back." The records ended there. No follow-up, no return mission, no explanation. The ship reached the edge of the marked system and slowed. The star ahead was dim, tired, and red. Planets circled it like scars. Broken belts of stone and metal drifted where a world should have been whole. The signal grew stronger. The crew entered orbit around what remained of the third planet. Silence filled the ship. The planet was dead. Oceans were gone. Cities lay crushed and burned. The surface was split in long, dark lines, as if the planet itself had tried to tear away from the pain. No lights, no movement, only ruins. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the scanners picked up something unexpected. Life. Deep underground, faint but real. The crew landed near the ruins of a city once filled with towers and wide roads. Dust covered everything. Wind howled through broken structures. The air was thin but breathable with filters. They moved carefully through the wreckage. Signs of battle were everywhere. Melted stone, craters too clean to be natural. This world had not died slowly. It had been executed. They found the entrance to the underground shelter by accident. A collapsed building hid a sealed door marked with symbols worn by time. When power touched the panel, it lit up. The door opened. The survivors did not greet them with joy. They came with weapons made from scrap and fear carved deep into their faces. Their eyes were sharp, their bodies thin but tense. They did not look surprised. They looked angry. One of them stepped forward. The voice that spoke was rough and tired. "You came late," the survivor said. The crew tried to explain. The words felt small. Apologies sounded weak in the face of ash and bones. The survivor listened, then shook their head. You promised, they said. We called. We waited. Then they came. The crew learned what happened next through broken stories and shared images. A powerful alien force had arrived years ago. They demanded control of the planet. When refused, they attacked. The defenders were no match. Cities fell in days. The survivors fled underground. They sent the signal again and again. No answer came. Until now. Trust did not return easily. As talks continued, alarms rang through the human ship. Multiple objects had entered the system. Not debris, ships. The same alien force had returned to finish what it started. The survivors looked at the humans with hollow eyes. They always come back, one of them said. The crew understood then. This was not just about a promise. This was about what humanity would do when running was easy. And staying meant everything. Above the ruined world, alien ships spread out like hunters, and far away, across countless screens and silent rooms, humanity watched as the signal that had called them home grew louder, waiting to see if it would be answered at last. The ruined planet lay quiet under the dim red sun, but silence did not mean safety. The human crew moved carefully through the shattered city, their boots crunching over broken glass and metal. Dust hung in the air, thick and stubborn. The survivors watched from the shadows, their eyes sharp and untrusting. They had seen strangers before. They had learned that strangers did not come to help. The humans began to explore the underground shelters. The tunnels were narrow, twisted, and dark. Every corner held a memory of loss. Empty beds, broken toys, and faded murals painted by children who no longer lived. The air smelled old, damp, and faintly of smoke. The crew kept their weapons ready, but they did not fire. These people were not the enemy. They were proof of why humanity had been called here. The survivors spoke in cautious whispers. They had no names the humans recognized, only personal titles. The Protector, the Builder, the Watcher. Each had a role. Each had a story of survival. They explained how their world had been attacked years ago by a powerful alien empire. The invaders were ruthless and precise. Cities burned in hours, armies fell in days, and anyone who resisted disappeared without a trace. These survivors had been lucky or stubborn enough to hide underground until now. One of the crew, a navigator named Leora, studied the planet's surface from the control deck. Their fleet is not far, she said quietly. They will arrive soon, and they will not wait. Her words were calm, but a tension ran through the ship. Outside, strange ships had already begun scanning the ruins. Their shapes were sharp, almost like weapons themselves. No signs of life were visible yet, but the sensors detected energy pulses moving in patterns that could only belong to organized forces. The survivors did not trust the humans yet, and the humans could not force trust. Every offer of help was met with suspicion. The Protector, an older man with scars running across his face, said, "We called for help. None came. You are late." His voice carried years of anger and disappointment. Captain Rain, the human leader, stepped forward. "We are here now. We will not leave. We will keep the promise, no matter the cost." His words were simple, but firm. The survivors listened, unsure if they believed him. They had been abandoned once, and the word promise meant little when the past had been broken. Still, there was no time to argue. Sensors picked up the first ships entering orbit. The aliens had arrived. They did not slow. They did not warn. They came to finish the destruction. The crew moved quickly, setting up defenses with the survivors' help. Broken turrets were repaired. Old weapon caches were opened. The humans shared technology the survivors had never seen. Small energy shields, drones that could scout ahead, and traps that relied on clever design rather than firepower. The survivors began to watch them with a mixture of doubt and fascination. Humans were willing to risk everything, and that was not something the aliens had expected. Weeks passed in tense preparation. Every day brought reports of more enemy ships entering the system. The survivors shared stories of past attacks, of friends lost to the alien fleet. They spoke in hushed tones about escape plans, about hiding underground, about surrender. The human crew refused to surrender. They insisted that the promise meant action, not running. Tensions between the humans and survivors slowly eased as they worked together. They began to understand each other through shared effort. The survivors taught the humans the tunnels, the traps, the hidden routes through the city ruins. The humans taught the survivors how to use small drones to see the enemy before the enemy saw them. A bond grew, fragile but present. Then one day, the survivors found a data terminal buried under rubble. It contained images of the past attack. The humans watched silently as the survivors replayed memories of destruction. Entire cities gone, families lost, equipment destroyed, and in the middle of it all, one clear message from the alien empire. No mercy would be given, no exceptions made. The crew realized the truth. The aliens were not just coming to occupy the planet. They were coming to erase it completely. The survivors' fear was justified. But Captain Rain spoke calmly. We cannot run. We cannot hide. If we leave, this promise is broken, and the galaxy will know humanity is weak. We stay and we fight, even if it costs everything. The survivors were shocked. They had given up hope that anyone would fight for them. They had lived in fear for years, waiting for help that never came. And now these humans, small in number but strong in will, refused to leave. Preparations continued. Traps were laid across the ruined city. Mines were hidden in collapsed streets. Small energy shields covered entrances to the shelters. The humans taught the survivors to coordinate attacks, to use clever misdirection. Every plan was risky. Every tactic relied on courage, timing, and the willingness to die if necessary. Then the first enemy scout ship appeared. It hovered above the ruins, scanning the city with red sensors. The humans watched from a distance, calculating. The survivors held their breath. This was the moment the preparations would be tested. The scout moved closer, unaware of the traps waiting below. Drones slipped through its defenses, mapping the interior. Mines triggered in unexpected places. Energy nets trapped smaller vessels. The alien ship hesitated, damaged but not destroyed. It pulled back, signaling the rest of the fleet. The survivors began to understand. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not rely on numbers or sheer firepower. They used ingenuity, patience, and strategy. It was a different kind of strength, one that could surprise even the strongest enemy. As the alien fleet entered orbit, the humans and survivors prepared for the inevitable battle. The city above them was broken, but the tunnels, the traps, and the courage of those inside gave them a chance. Outside, the red sun began to set, casting long shadows over the ruins. The fleet moved closer, ready to strike. Inside, the humans and survivors waited, knowing the first move would define their fate. Somewhere far away, Earth watched in silence. The signal had led the humans here. The promise was being tested, and the galaxy was about to see what humanity could do when it chose to stand instead of run. No one knew if they would survive, but the humans refused to leave. The survivors began to hope, and the alien fleet, confident in its power, did not yet realize that this fight would be unlike any they had faced before. The planet was dead, but the battle for its honor and the promise made long ago had only just begun. The stars above waited, and humanity prepared to show the galaxy what it meant to keep a promise. The human crew and the survivors gathered in the tunnels beneath the ruined city. Every face showed tension, every hand tightened around weapons and tools. Above them, the alien fleet circled like a storm ready to strike. The signal that had called them here pulsed in the background, steady and insistent. It reminded everyone of why they were there. Captain Rain moved through the group, speaking quietly but firmly. "We have a choice," he said. "We can leave, or we can stay. Leaving is easy. Staying is hard. But if we leave, this promise is broken. If we stay, we may not survive, but we will not fail the ones who called for us." The survivors listened, some with hope, others with anger. They had given up on outsiders before. They had lived underground, hiding, fearing, waiting for help that never came. Some whispered that humans were foolish to stay. Others watched quietly, unsure what to think. The crew began to prepare. Mines were buried deeper, traps were reinforced, and every tunnel was checked for weak points. Small energy shields were placed over entrances and exits. Drones flew through the tunnels, mapping every corner, every hiding place. The survivors helped where they could, repairing old weapons and reinforcing walls. Slowly, they began to trust the humans, though their fear never disappeared. Weeks passed in tense silence. The alien fleet moved closer every day. Sensors detected dozens of ships, each larger and more dangerous than the last. The humans knew the fight would not be easy. They studied old battle reports, learned patterns, and tested every trap. They trained the survivors in small strikes, ambushes, and using the terrain to their advantage. One day, the first enemy ship entered orbit over the ruins. Its sensors swept the city, searching for life. Drones slipped through the defenses, scanning the alien vessel. Mines triggered in narrow streets and small explosions forced the ship to retreat. The humans watched calmly from underground, noting every reaction. The survivors held their breath, their hands shaking. Humans fight differently. said the Protector, watching as the crew coordinated attacks. "They do not fear the impossible. They do not wait for orders. They act," Captain Rain nodded. "It is not strength alone. It is will, and we are not leaving." The alien fleet hesitated, confused by the unexpected resistance. They expected easy victory. They expected a weak, scattered population. What they found instead was organized, clever, and unafraid. The humans continued to teach the survivors. Every day brought small victories, small lessons. Traps worked. Drones exposed enemy positions. Communications were clear and fast. And through it all, the humans reminded everyone why they had come. One night, as the red sun set, the crew gathered around the central map in the command room. "The fleet will attack in full soon," said Leora, the navigator. "They are testing our strength. They will not wait much longer." "We know what we face," said Captain Rain, "and we know why we stay. Remember, this is more than survival. This is proof of what humanity can do. We do not run. We do not kneel. We fight." The survivors listened quietly. Some nodded. Some clenched their fists. Fear was still there, but hope began to grow. The next day, the alien fleet entered orbit fully. Ships of all sizes moved into formation, ready to destroy everything in sight. Sensors detected their energy weapons charging, and the crew prepared to respond. The first strike would be critical. Human drones slipped through the alien formation, detonating mines and drawing fire away from the tunnels. The survivors fought alongside the crew, using weapons patched together from old systems. Every move was calculated, every trap timed perfectly. The aliens were strong, but the humans were clever. For hours, the battle raged above the city. The red sun cast long shadows over the ruins, painting everything in blood and fire. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched. Yet they held their ground. They refused to retreat. Every success, no matter how small, was celebrated quietly. Every failure was a lesson. The Protector watched the battle from a hidden position. "They fight not for glory," he said. "They fight because they promised. That is something no enemy can understand." As night fell, the alien fleet began to withdraw temporarily, regrouping. The humans and survivors took stock of their losses and victories. Traps had worked, drones had survived, and the tunnels remained intact. Most importantly, they had proven something. They could resist. They could fight. Captain Rain addressed everyone. "This is only the beginning. They will return. We must be ready. Every moment we hold, every action we take, shows the galaxy who we are. We are humans. We keep our promises." The survivors looked at him with new respect. They had lived in fear for so long, and now they saw courage that they had almost forgotten. The humans were small in number, but their determination was greater than anything the aliens expected. Above the ruins, the stars watched silently. Ships drifted in the red sky, waiting for the next move. And deep underground, humans and survivors prepared for what was coming, knowing that the promise they kept was more than words. It was action. The alien empire believed victory was assured. They did not yet understand the force they faced. They did not understand that humanity, though small, was unbroken. And they did not yet know that promises kept in the darkest hour could change the course of history. The battle was far from over, and every choice mattered. The humans had chosen to stay. They had chosen to fight, and the galaxy would watch as the story of this ruined world unfolded, one courageous act at a time. Above the city, enemy ships paused. Below, humans and survivors breathed together, ready for what would come next. Every heart knew the truth. They could not fail. They would not fail. The promise had brought them here, and they would see it through, no matter the cost. The stars held their silent witness, and humanity prepared to show the galaxy the meaning of courage. The alien fleet returned without warning. One moment the red sky was quiet, the next it filled with fire and motion. Large ships moved into low orbit, blocking the weak light of the sun. Smaller attack craft spread out, scanning every ruin, every crack in the ground. The enemy had decided to end this resistance deep under the city. Alarms echoed through the tunnels. The human crew moved fast and without panic. Each person knew their place. Each task had been practiced many times. The survivors followed, fear tight on their faces, but they did not run. They had learned something from the humans. Fear could exist, but it did not have to control them. Captain Rain watched the battle map update in real time. Red markers multiplied across the screen. "They're committing fully," he said. "This is the real attack." Above the surface, the first shots landed. The ground shook as energy weapons struck the ruins. Buildings that had already been broken finally collapsed into dust. Fire rolled through empty streets. The aliens believed nothing alive could survive such force. They were wrong. Hidden shields flared to life over key tunnel entrances. The energy barriers bent and flickered, but held. Alien scanners struggled to understand what they were seeing. According to their data, this world should have been silent. Human drones launched in waves, small and fast. They flew low, using rubble and smoke as cover. Some carried explosives, others carried signal jammers. They did not attack directly. They confused, distracted, and delayed. Alien weapons fired wildly as their targeting systems failed. A few smaller ships crashed into ruined towers, exploding in bright flashes. The humans did not cheer. Every crash meant the enemy would adapt. The survivors watched through shared screens in the tunnels. Some covered their mouths in shock. Others leaned forward, eyes wide. They had never seen anyone fight the alien empire like this. The enemy sent ground forces next. Heavy drop pods slammed into the city, cracking the surface. Armored figures emerged, tall and powerful, moving with cold purpose. They advanced toward tunnel entrances, weapons raised. The humans waited. When the first group stepped into a narrow street, the ground gave way beneath them. The street collapsed into a pit filled with hidden charges. The explosion shook the city again. Smoke and debris filled the air. Another group tried a different route. Energy nets snapped into place, tangling their movement. Survivors fired from hidden positions, guided by human signals. Every shot counted. Every move was planned. Still, the enemy kept coming. One shield failed under heavy fire. An entrance collapsed. Dust filled the tunnel. For a moment, panic spread. Then the humans moved, clearing debris, sealing secondary paths, guiding survivors away. No one was left behind. Captain Rain watched the situation grow worse by the minute. "We are holding," he said, "but we cannot hold forever." Leora looked up from her console. Long-range sensors show something new. Signals are leaking out. Other systems are watching. The battle was being seen. The alien commander noticed it too. Angry signals pulsed through their fleet. This was not supposed to be public. This was supposed to be quick. They changed tactics. A massive ship moved into position above the planet. Its weapons glowed with power far greater than before. It was designed to break worlds. The survivors felt it before they saw it. The ground vibrated. The air grew heavy. "They will destroy everything," whispered one survivor. Captain Rain made a hard decision. "Prepare the broadcast." The crew hesitated. This was dangerous. It would reveal everything. But they understood. A wide signal burst from the human ship, cutting through interference and jamming. It carried no insults, no threats. It carried truth. "This is a human vessel," the message said. "We are here because of a promise made long ago. This world called for help. We came. We will not leave." The message spread faster than expected. Other species listening on the edge of known space heard it. Some remembered humans. Some remembered promises kept in small ways. Some had dismissed humanity as weak. They watched now. The alien commander reacted with rage. The massive ship fired. A beam of energy struck the planet. The surface cracked. Entire sections of the city vanished. Shockwaves rolled outward. Even underground, walls cracked and lights flickered. Many thought it was over. Then the humans did something no one expected. They moved their ship. The human vessel rose from hiding and placed itself directly in the path of the next shot. Its shields screamed under the pressure. Systems failed. Power drained fast. "Why would they do that?" a survivor cried. Captain Rain stood steady. "Because promises are not words. They are actions." The beam struck the ship. The shields broke. Fire tore across the hull. The ship was badly damaged, but it remained in place. The alien fleet paused. For the first time, they hesitated. That moment was enough. New signals entered the system. Not friendly greetings. Not speeches. Weapons fire. Ships from other species arrived at the edge of the system. Not many. Not enough to win easily. But enough to change everything. The alien commander issued retreat orders too late. The battle spread across the stars above the ruined world. Explosions lit the sky. The human ship drifted, damaged and burning, but alive. Emergency crews worked fast, sealing breaches, restoring power. Underground, the survivors watched the sky clear inch by inch. Alien ships pulled back, firing as they fled. The massive world-breaker ship turned away, damaged by unexpected attacks. Silence slowly returned. The cost was high. Parts of the planet were gone forever. Many tunnels collapsed. Some lives were lost. But the survivors were still alive, and the promise was kept. Captain Rain sat quietly on the bridge. injured but awake. Reports came in from across the system. The alien empire was retreating. Other species were speaking. The message had spread. Humanity had been seen. The survivors emerged from the tunnels into the broken light of the red sun. They looked at the humans with something new in their eyes. It was not fear. It was not anger. It was belief. The battle was not fully over. The future was uncertain. But one truth was clear now. When humanity said it would return, it did. And the galaxy would remember that. The silence after the battle felt heavier than the fighting. Smoke drifted slowly across the broken city. Pieces of metal fell from the sky like cold rain. The red sun rose again, shining on ruins that had survived one more day. The human ship floated above the planet, damaged and dark. Its engines were quiet. Many believed it was dead. On the surface, survivors stood still, looking up, afraid to hope. Underground, emergency lights flickered. The human crew worked in low gravity and smoke, sealing broken walls and carrying the injured. Some systems were gone forever. Power was limited. Air was thin in parts of the ship. Still, the crew moved with calm focus. Captain Rain was alive but badly hurt. He sat against a wall on the bridge, watching reports scroll across a cracked screen. The message they had sent was still spreading. Signals came from far systems, weak but real. Other species were talking. Some asked questions. Some warned others to stay away. Some remembered. The alien fleet had not fully escaped. A few enemy ships remained at the edge of the system, damaged and confused. They did not attack again. They waited. On the surface, the survivors began to move. Slowly at first, then with purpose. They helped each other climb out of collapsed tunnels. They carried the wounded into open areas where the air was cleaner. They looked around at the damage and realized something important. They were still alive. A group of survivors gathered near a broken tower. One of them looked toward the human ship. "Did they live?" someone asked quietly. No one answered. Inside the ship, Leora worked at a damaged console. Sparks fell from the ceiling. She rerouted power again and again until one small system came back online. A weak signal burst out into space. It was not a call for help. It was a statement. "This is a human vessel," the message said. "We are still here." Across the galaxy, listeners froze. Some had expected silence. Some had expected lies. Instead, they heard resolve. The signal spread faster than before. Independent traders passed it along. Old listening stations replayed it. Small fleets adjusted their routes. Humanity's message was simple, but its meaning was heavy. They stayed. The alien commander watched the signal from a distant ship. Anger burned through their thoughts. This world was supposed to be erased. Humanity was supposed to be weak. Instead, they had turned a punishment into a symbol. Orders came quickly. "Withdraw. Do not engage. Not now." The remaining alien ships jumped away, leaving behind wreckage and unanswered questions. On the surface, survivors saw the enemy ships vanish. For the first time in years, the sky was empty of threat. Some fell to their knees. Some cried. Others stood in silence, unable to process freedom. They did not cheer loudly. They looked up again at the human ship. Minutes passed. Then the ship moved. Small lights blinked on across its hull. A section of the ship rotated slowly, stabilizing. It was alive. A wave of emotion swept through the survivors. Relief hit like a storm. They began to gather supplies, preparing to help the humans however they could. Human shuttles descended carefully, damaged but controlled. When the doors opened, crew members stepped out, injured and exhausted. The survivors rushed forward. No words were needed. Hands reached out. Shoulders were supported. Injured humans were carried into survivor shelters. Water was shared. Food was given freely, even though it was scarce. That night, fires burned in the ruins. Not for war, but for warmth. Humans and survivors sat together in quiet circles. No one spoke much. The weight of what had happened pressed down on everyone. They had faced an empire and lived. They had kept a promise older than memory. Captain Rain was brought down later, carried carefully. The survivors made space for him. One of them knelt and spoke softly. "You came back." Rain nodded weakly. "We said we would." It was not submission, it was respect. Above them, far away, more ships arrived, not attackers. Observers. Small groups from other species entered the system cautiously. They did not fire. They watched. Some sent short messages. "We saw. We remember. We did not believe. Now they did." The galaxy was changing its view of humanity. Not because humans were strong, but because they were stubborn. Because they stayed. Because they kept their word when it cost everything. Repairs continued for days. The human ship could not leave yet. It did not need to. Supplies arrived from unexpected places. A trader species sent medical equipment. Another sent engineers. No treaties were signed. No demands were made. They helped because they wanted to. The survivors began rebuilding small areas of the city. Not the old towers. Not the old roads. Just shelters, clean water systems, places to live. Hope returned slowly, like light after a long night. Captain Rain recovered enough to stand. He walked through the ruins with survivors at his side. Everywhere he went, people watched him with quiet respect. "You should have left," one survivor said carefully. "You could have survived." Rain looked at the broken horizon. Then we would not be human. Word of the battle reached Earth fully now. The public saw the recordings, the damaged ship, the stand in front of the weapon meant to destroy a world. Silence filled cities across the planet. Humanity watched itself and understood something new about who it was. Children replayed the signal in schools. Old explorers remembered past missions. Leaders spoke less and listened more. One promise, one journey, and the galaxy was watching. As the red sun set again, the human ship sent one final message, short and clear. The promise is kept. It echoed through space, not as a warning, not as a threat, but as a truth. The journey was not over, but humanity had taken its place among the stars. Not by conquest, not by fear, but by standing still when everything said to run. And the universe would never forget that moment. The ruins of the planet were quiet now. Smoke drifted slowly into the red sky. Broken towers and shattered streets told stories of fire, battle, and survival. The air was thin and hot, but the survivors and the human crew moved carefully, helping one another where they could. Life had returned in small, fragile ways. Captain Rain stood on a ridge overlooking the broken city. His uniform was torn. His face was tired, but his eyes held something strong. Pride, determination, and relief. Around him, survivors worked to repair tunnels and clear debris. The humans did not demand anything. They simply helped. Tools were passed, small shelters were rebuilt, and water systems began to function again. Every action was quiet, deliberate, human. The ship, though badly damaged, hovered above the surface. Its engines were patched enough to hold in place, but long-distance travel was still impossible. Crew members moved in and out of the hull, repairing systems, sharing resources, and preparing for the journey home. Each human knew the risk. They could leave and survive, but they chose to stay. For weeks, the alien empire avoided the system. Scattered patrols remained at a distance, but they did not engage. News of the humans' actions had spread. Other species, some neutral, some former rivals, observed from afar. Some sent small ships with supplies or messages. Others merely watched silently. The galaxy had begun to notice humanity, not for conquest, not for power, but for courage and loyalty. One day, a small shuttle returned from a nearby system. It carried a message. A fleet of ships had arrived to escort humans and survivors back to safer space when they were ready. It was not help offered out of fear. It was respect. Humanity had kept a promise that others thought unimportant, yet the action had changed how the galaxy saw them. Below, the survivors began to gather in the open for the first time. Children ran through the ruins laughing softly. Adults shared stories. Food was cooked over small fires. They were not safe fully. The scars of war and fear remained, but hope had returned. The humans worked quietly alongside them, showing how to repair systems, how to coordinate, how to survive together. Captain Rain walked among the survivors, speaking softly. "This world is broken," he said, "but life is stronger than ruins. You survived. We were called here to keep a promise, and we did. Remember that. Remember what courage and hope can do." The survivors listened, some nodding, some quiet. It was the first time in years that words felt true instead of empty. The human crew prepared a final broadcast, not to threaten, not to warn, not to demand, to declare the truth of what had happened and what humanity had done. The message repeated across many systems, reaching old stations, isolated colonies, and the far edges of explored space. "We came because we promised," the broadcast said. "We stayed because we could." Humanity keeps its word. We are watching the stars, and now the stars are watching us. Reactions came slowly at first. Fleets shifted. Ambassadors questioned. Observers recorded. But the impact was clear. Across light years, stories began to spread. Other species who had known humanity only as weak or reckless now reconsidered. Some respected them, some feared them. Most could not ignore them. Captain Rain and his crew spent the next weeks overseeing repairs. The planet would never be the same, but a life had returned. Survivors told their stories to one another, adding the humans as part of the tale. Humanity had come when no one expected it. Humanity had stayed when running was easy. And the galaxy now understood that the humans were more than just explorers or traders. They were a species who could be counted on. Finally, the human ship was repaired enough to leave orbit. The crew boarded, taking only what they needed. The survivors waved from the ground. They had learned in quiet ways to trust, to hope, and to believe in a promise. As the ship rose into the sky, the red sun set behind the ruins, casting long shadows over a broken world that had survived another day. Far away, alien fleets watched silently. Observers recorded everything, and Earth, listening from thousands of light years away, saw the outcome of a promise that had taken decades to be fulfilled. Captain Rain looked out over the stars, quiet for the first time in weeks. Leora stood beside him, her eyes scanning the systems ahead. "We did what we came to do," she said softly. He nodded. "Yes," and the galaxy's watching. The ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, leaving the ruined world behind. The survivors stayed, but they were no longer alone. They had hope. They had skills. They had the memory of humans who refused to run. Across space, fleets moved carefully, some closer to witness, some turning away in respect. Humanity had proven something rare. Strength was not just measured in firepower or numbers. It was measured in courage. It was measured in loyalty. It was measured in keeping promises, even when the cost was great. Captain Rain and his crew returned to Earth slowly, carrying the stories of survival, of courage, and of trust. The planet watched them arrive. Humanity had changed, not through war, not through conquest, but through a quiet act of bravery that would be remembered for generations. The promise had been kept. The journey had been made. And from that day forward, the galaxy looked at humanity differently. They were no longer just one species among many. They were a species who could be relied upon, who could inspire, and who could stand alone if necessary. The stars above were no longer distant. They were observers, witnesses, and, perhaps, in time, allies. Humanity had shown that courage and honor could travel farther than any ship. The journey had ended, but the story of what humans could become had only just begun. For a long time afterward, children on Earth would learn the tale, survivors would tell their grandchildren. Across space, whispers spread of humans who had come to a dead world and stood against an empire. The promise, once forgotten, had become legend. The galaxy was watching, and humanity had earned that attention forever.